Welcome to the WordPress training. My name is Femi Greater Heights, and we will be continuing from the previous video. I've talked about WordPress.com versus WordPress.org in the previous video. In the previous conversations, I've talked about hosting and domain name. And I said hosting and domain comes into the picture when you want to run your WordPress on a live environment. And what do I mean by live environment? Having it hosted on the internet where someone can easily go to your website address like foodie.com and visit you from wherever you are on the planet. But with the assumption of where this course is, we looked at it that you may not have the resources to buy a domain and a hosting space for now. So it would be a good thing to run your WordPress locally on your computer. This way, your WordPress, your styling, how you navigate around would be running on your computer, which will be acting like what every other host is doing. And we have three of these softwares to get that done. We have Laragon, we have Locale by Flywheel, and Bitnami with respect to Bitnami stack. Now with all these three, there is one that is quite different because Bitnami is already a stack. If you check the name here, you realize that it is Bitnami WordPress 5.8.3.0. That means that this package that we downloaded has WordPress already bundled in it. So by installing Bitnami, you do not need to load WordPress manually or download WordPress from the internet again. But for the sake of this, I'm not going to start this installation with Bitnami. You do not have to install all three. Just picking one works well for you. Now, there is one extra that I added in the folder, and it is called Laragon Portable. Now, Laragon Portable only comes into the picture, or any portable software for that matter, is when you do not want to install the software on your system. But when you unzip this Laragon Portable, for example, you already see the Laragon software, that it is in more like a virtual machine kind of format. So let me give you an example. So let me extract this Laragon Portable. And when it is done extracting, you realize that in the folder, there is everything that is required to run this Laragon. Everything has been bundled here. So I do not need to install Laragon on my RAM anymore. I just need to double click on this and Laragon would launch. So this is, if you notice, I didn't have to install or do anything. Now this is needed for people that have low RAM storage and do not really want to have their RAM occupied at every point. Now with portable softwares, it is when you run them, that is when they start counting on your RAM. That is when they start using your RAM. Immediately I close it, the spots that it is taking on your RAM is no longer there until I launch it again. But for the purpose of this first video, I will delete this portable that I just extracted because I want to install the full version of the Laragon. So I'm just going to check. It seems that it's running. So I can delete it. So now I want to start with Laragon installation. That's the full version. Then I'll teach you how to install Locale and I'll teach you how to install Bitnami. Now the good thing about Laragon and Locale is that unlike Bitnami that already has everything bundled, that doesn't mean that Laragon and Locale do not have quick ways of installing WordPress. In short, remember that we downloaded WordPress file, the core file from WordPress.org in our previous video. And I said that all you need to do is to launch this into one of those softwares. That means I have to do that locally for both Laragon and Local. But in Laragon and Local, they have a quick button where you can just download WordPress directly from WordPress repository. So you do not have to do it manually. But I would nonetheless teach you how to do it with that method and also doing that locally as well. So I'm just going to double click on this Laragon so that I can install it. So it gives you this screen. You can launch this. And you can click on English if it fits your language. And you come to this next screen. It's telling me that it is going to install Laragon inside of my drive C. So I'll click next. And I do not want Laragon to always be launching whenever I boot my system. So I'm going to uncheck this, because when I uncheck this, it means that it is when I need Laragon, I would launch it. I do not want it starting up with my booting process. So I'll click on next and click on install. Now this process is going to take a couple of minutes to install. So you might have to wait, and the period or the time that it takes to install also depends on how fast your laptop or your desktop is. Now, when the software is done installing, you're going to get this, and I'm just going to run Laragon alone and click on finish. Then it is going to open the screen, and the first thing you need to do is to check if everything works well. There are two things that makes Laragon work. Number one is your Apache, which is the server, and number two is the MySQL, which is database powered. So number one is going to run the Apache on port 80. Then it is going to run the next one, which is MySQL. Now, if you notice, there's a problem right here, and it is saying that there's this port that is in use, which is 443. Now, there are two ways to solve this. You can click on OK, stop the server completely. There are two ways to launch your server. It's either you click on this elephant here, or you click on this aspect here, this button here. So let me stop the server because I need to go and correct that error that it is showing. So I'll come to Menu, Preferences, Services. Then for this Apache, I'll make it 8080, because if you have Skype installed on your computer, it is possible that Skype is already using 80. So I'm only adding another 80 to this, so it becomes 8080, so that it doesn't tell me to go and uninstall or do something to my Skype. So there is no button to click on save. As you keep entering the value, it automatically saves. Then you can click again and start the server again. When you start the server again, you just wait a couple of seconds. If this doesn't show red again, that means everything is going on well. Now, if it is showing red again, that means aside the ports, we need to go and change something else as well. So I will stop that server again, come to Menu, Preferences, Services and Ports. Then I'll change this to 4433. And I would try it again. Now, I am doing all of this because some people's system may have different reactions to Laragon. So I am only saying that if you see this, this is what you should do. If you see this error in yours, this is what you should do. So I'll click on Start All and see if it is giving me that problem. Now, if you start all, Apache might be looking like this and giving you this lock here. Now, it is telling me that this particular 4433 is is forbidding. So I have to stop the server again. Like I said, come to menu, preferences, services and ports, then I would uncheck enabled here. When I uncheck enabled, I can go back again, and this time around, I can start again. All you need to do is to wait to see if that pops up an error. If it doesn't pop up an error, then you note that that has been rectified. As you can see, there is no error here. Now, I stopped the server and I restarted it again, just to be clear that there is no problem. The Apache is running and the MySQL is running. Now, another thing you need to do before you begin is you come to database. Now, when you come to database, you realize that there is no session running. So the first thing you want to do is create a session. So we'll create new. And you can call the session Laragon if you want to, or you can give it any name that you please. You can click on enter, or you click on open once, then you click on open again to be sure that all these systems are up and running. In short, you can even right click on this Laragon here and just simulate a database. So do as if you're creating a database. I could call the database food, just to be sure that the database is here somewhere. So we have this session running. We can take this one out and have this. Now, since I am connected to the internet, you only need about 16 MB or thereabouts to install WordPress. But before you do that, before we install WordPress, there's something else I want to bring to your attention. You come to preferences and you see that there is name.test. Name.test. Now, that means whatever website we create would have an extension of .test. But you could choose to want yours to be a .com or something else. So let's say, for example, I want .com. I can leave it as .com, or I can just leave it as .tests. Now, this doesn't really matter because the website is running locally on my computer. It's not like somebody can enter it on the internet and search for what I am doing on my computer. No, whatever I am building is restricted to my computer, so this may not really matter. So this name means whatever name you pick, .tests will become the extension. You can change it if you want. For example, I could change it to a .com if I want to. When I'm done, so Laragon does saving immediately you are typing, so you do not need to hit any save button or something. Once you click on anything, you switch tab, you come back there, that has been saved already, so you can leave this. Now, the next thing we want to do is that we want to install WordPress. So you right click on this and you come to WordPress, you come to quick app, then you come to WordPress. You only need limited internet for this. Now, I want to create a website called Food Quickie. So this will be the name of my WordPress. Then I click on OK. Then it's going to take some time to download WordPress. You see, I am not doing anything manually. Everything is done because I connected to the internet. As you can see, the WordPress file here is less than 15 MB. So that means you really do not need a chunk of data to get that done. When this is done, it would extract automatically. Then the URL at the end of the day will now be food-quickie.com. Now, the reason you see this hyphen here in this name is because when I was creating this WordPress just before now, I entered food space quickie. So if you do not want an hyphen, do not add a space, because whenever it sees a space, it will add an hyphen. So we're just going to wait for this to finish. It depends on your internet, but this should download in a heartbeat and do everything else. When this is done, you are going to see this notification that says, do you want Windows processor, blah, blah, blah. You can click on yes, and this will finalize the entire process. And when it does, it will make this link available to you. So you can click on this link, or you can click on visit sites. When you click on it, it would open the sites and request for you to officially install WordPress. So whatever WordPress I am installing now, it's actually downloaded the WordPress, but it is yet to install it. So this is now the installation process. So whatever I'm installing now will be installing to food-quickie.com. So I'm going to pick English. Yes, I'll click on continue. Now, this does not require internet anymore. So at this point, you can always disconnect your internet and all this will run locally. So I want to call my site Food Quickie. The idea of this is to serve you food quickly. So I'm going to give it a username. Now, in WordPress, everybody knows a lot of people use admin as username. So try not to fall into that that trap, because when your site is to be hacked, people try to guess the admin username and they now try the password. But if they are not able to know the username and know the password, that is a lot of work for them to do. So try not to go the normal way. You can do full admin quick. It's not necessary you use admin. Just use something that it will be unique to you. I'll copy this. Then for the password, you can use this password generator to generate password, or you can enter something of your choice. So let's just say I want, or maybe I just want this too. I could leave this, or I could enter something that is stronger. So I could say capital letter Q, U at full at 10 min. So you can see this is very strong. I do Ctrl C and I copy as well. Now I am doing Ctrl C and copying and pasting somewhere so that I will be able to remember it. Because if you do not remember it, you will not be able to log in at the end of the day to your WordPress. So this email, you can literally add something to that because that will help you in recovering the password at the end of the day. Now, search engine visibility means that do you want search engines to index your site? So that means your site will be able to pop up in places. Now, this has advantage because your site will have visibility, but this does not make sense if we're installing this on a live server, that you are buying a domain name and a hosting, then you can uncheck this. But even in that scenario too, there is a security problem that this also poses when you leave it unchecked. Now, if you leave it unchecked, it means that some bots can easily find your site and decide to bombard your site. But the good part is that your site will be listed and it will increase visibility. So it's not a given at the end of the day. But this doesn't matter in this our case because our WordPress is directly in our computer. So it's not like search engines can see whatever is running on your computer as a server. So you can leave this for now. This doesn't matter. Then you can click on install WordPress. And when you click on that, that will take some couple of time. You can see this is rolling to show you that it is installing. Now, my username and my password can be saved, so I'm just going to save this. Then when it is done, you can click on login to get that done. But if you have a problem and you do not know how to log in, the default login for WordPress is wp-admin. Now remember, I have 8080 here. The reason is because I have changed my port from regular 80 to 8080. If this was 80 initially, I wouldn't need to have this 80 here, because 80 is more like the default. But now that I've put 8080, I must reference this column and put -wp admin. This is the default. So anybody that is building websites around the world, to get to this dashboard where you can enter your username and your password, if you want to guess if a site is built with WordPress, you can always check the website and add /wp-admin. It will give you a sense of if that site was built with WordPress. Although there's a clause to this, because there are modern ways or there are newer ways to hide this your login page. Because if your login page is seen, that means people can do a brute force. That means they can guess a username, guess a password repeated times. But if they cannot find this particular page, it makes it difficult for them to even try to log in. So as you move forward and become an intermediate in WordPress, you would know that hiding this page is also part of effective security for WordPress. So I would enter my username and my password, and I can click on remember me because I want to always go straight to my dashboard whenever I log in. So I'll click on login. Now when you click on login, with that, you now have your WordPress running. Some of you will say, but your internet is turned on. I can turn off my internet just for reference. My internet is turned off, you can see. And I can reload this page and it will still give me food quickie and all this information. Why? Because I only needed internet when I was downloading the WordPress, but all the installation fees till when I'll be using this, I do not need internet anymore. In short, this is how the dashboard looks like. When I click on this next item, you see that it goes there. I click here, there is no internet turned on. So that's why I said this is a method of running WordPress locally without having to buy domain and hosting from any hosting company. So this is a way to install WordPress using Laragon. We are going to try some other methods. We have tried Laragon now. We'll try Bitnami stack in the next video, and we'll try Local by Flywheel in another video. This is still the WordPress training. My name is Femi Greater Heights, and catch you guys in the next video. Now you also have to take notes that if you come to your Laragon, notice that your Laragon is still running. If there will be any error that occurs with either the Apache or the MySQL, it would affect this, because this is more like the engine that is running this particular WordPress, so that you do not need an internet. So let's just say, for example, I stop this particular server. If you notice, the Apache is not running, the MySQL is not running. If I come here and I decide to reload the page, you realize that this would give me error, similar to a typical website in a live environment. So you can see the power of this particular machine always running to keep your site running. Also, it is good to always know if your database are in place. So let me cancel that and start the server. So I can start the server by clicking on start all here, or I can click on this elephant here. So if the server is running, so for reference, I can come here again. When I refresh, you see that this should pop up now. Why? Because the server is now running. So your computer is now acting like a hosting company, which has given you a .com and has given you a hosting space as well. So your space in your computer, your hard drive space, is now like your hosting space, while Laragon is now the one powering this .com, which is your domain. So you can click on database and just be sure if your database is running. So while this session Laragon is highlighted, you can click on open. Then you see that I have a database called food-quickie. When you click on it, you can now see that before we started, there was nothing in the database, but immediately we installed WordPress, then we have all this content, the posts, the meta, the users, and all of that, and all of that, and all of that. Now, when you come to the meaning of WordPress database, so a WordPress database is a place where all the necessary website data is stored. So it includes the username, the password, the posts, the pages, the comments, the theme, and the list is endless. So the database is very powerful. If you come to your database, for example, and by any chance you say you disconnect this database, for example, let's just disconnect this, you realize that when I close this, I have disconnected the database. If I try to restart this, it would work. Why? Because each time this server is still up and running, the database will be refreshed. So I can go back again and be sure that the database is there. You can see it is up and running. But immediately I delete this database by clicking on drop, everything as regards this particular website will be terminated. The same way, if you edit any content here without making a full backup, it would affect your website as well. So the database is something that nobody should have access to your website database, because it is where the essential files are stored. In short, when people want to know all the users who registered on your site, if they can have access to your database, they can compromise your site. So these are some of the few security things that you should put in mind. Nobody should have access to your site. So you can see that this Laragon is more like our server backend, while this particular WordPress here is our WordPress dashboard. So people will say WP dashboard. So there are two types of dashboard now: the server dashboard, or the server backend, and the WP backend. So that is the two servers you have. It's similar to if you were to host your website on Whogohost or Namecheap or Bluehost or WP Engine. You are going to have one backend that powers your WordPress. It is more like an interactive place where you make your posts, you upload media. It's more like the things that you can touch and control. But by the time you start coming into the server backend, you must have an experience before you can tamper any of these things. So as you keep using WordPress, you would have more control and more understanding of both backends.